In a quiet village surrounded with tall palm trees and red earth paths, life moved at a gentle pace. The mornings were filled with the sound of roosters crowing, and the evenings carried laughter from families gathered outside their homes. Among the villagers lived a man named Obina. He was known as a calm and hard-working man, someone who kept to himself but earned the respect of those around him. His small compound, though not luxurious, was comfortable enough, a place where he had built his life over the years. And at the center of that life was his wife,
Good morning,
Amara.
Obina.
For many
Welcome
years,
back, sir.
Amara had been the only woman in Obina's home. She was strong, organized, and deeply committed to her responsibilities. She woke before dawn, worked tirelessly throughout the day, and ensured that everything in the household ran smoothly. To outsiders, their marriage seemed stable, peaceful, complete. But like many things in life, what appears complete on the outside may still carry silent gaps within. Unspoken tensions. As time passed, whispers began to move quietly through the village. Some said Amara had not given Obina the kind of family he desired. Others spoke of tradition, of how a man in such a position might seek to expand his household. No one spoke directly to Amara about it, but she heard the whispers. And though she never responded, those words settled deep in her heart. Obina, on his part, remained quiet. He did not share his thoughts openly. He did not explain his worries. Instead, he carried them silently, allowing them to grow without challenge. A decision without discussion. One afternoon, without warning, Obina returned home with news that would change everything. He had taken a second wife. Her name was Adezi. The announcement fell into the compound like a sudden storm. Amara stood still, her expression unreadable. She had not been consulted, not prepared, not even warned. The decision had already been made, and there was nothing she could do to change it. The arrival of Adezi. A few days later, Adezi arrived. She stepped into the compound with humility, her movements careful, her voice soft. She greeted Amara respectfully, bowing slightly as tradition required. "Good afternoon," she said gently. Amara responded, but her voice lacked warmth. To Adezi, the tension was clear, but she chose kindness. She offered help with chores, she spoke politely, she avoided conflict. She did everything she believed would bring peace into the home. The beginning of change. At first, the household remained calm. There were no arguments, no raised voices, but something had shifted. The silence between Amara and Adezi was not peaceful. It was heavy, measured, careful. Amara watched everything. The way Adezi spoke, the way she moved, the way Obina looked at her. Every small detail felt like a reminder of what had changed. And though Amara tried to maintain control, something inside her had begun to grow. Not anger, not yet, but something close, something that waited quietly beneath the surface. A smile that hid more. As days turned into weeks, Amara began to change her approach. Instead of distance, she chose closeness. Instead of silence, she offered conversation. She began helping Adezi with chores. She spoke more gently. She even smiled. To anyone watching, it seemed like the tension in the home was fading, like the two women were beginning to accept each other. Adezi felt relieved. She believed peace had finally come. But what she did not know was this: not all smiles come from a place of peace. Some are carefully placed masks. The quiet beginning of darkness. One evening, after everyone had gone to sleep, Amara sat alone outside. The night was quiet, the air still. She stared into the darkness, her thoughts heavy. Inside her, the feeling she had tried to ignore had finally taken shape. Jealousy. Not loud, not wild, but steady, persistent, and growing stronger with each passing day. She thought about her years in the house, her sacrifices, her position, and how quickly everything had changed. In her mind, one thought began to repeat itself. This is not fair. At first, it was just a thought. Then it became a feeling, and slowly, it began to turn into a decision. A path begins. The next morning, Amara woke up as usual. She carried out her duties. She spoke calmly. She smiled when necessary. But something inside her had shifted completely. The quiet jealousy in her heart was no longer just a feeling. It was becoming something else, something more dangerous. And though no one could see it yet, the path she was about to take would change not only her life, but the lives of everyone in that house. When jealousy finds a voice. The days that followed moved like any other in the compound, but beneath the surface, nothing was the same. Amara woke early, as she always had. She swept the yard, prepared meals, and moved through her duties with practiced ease. To anyone watching, she was still the same woman, responsible, composed, and in control. But inside her, something had begun to change. The quiet feeling she once tried to ignore had now grown stronger. It no longer stayed hidden in the background. It followed her everywhere, while she walked, while she rested, even while she tried to sleep. Jealousy had found a place in her heart, and it was no longer silent. Watching without rest. Amara began to notice everything. The way Obinna spoke to Adaeze, the small moments of laughter they shared, the simple kindness in his tone when he addressed her. Each moment felt like a reminder, sharp and constant. It wasn't that Obinna had stopped speaking to Amara. It wasn't that he had taken anything away from her. But to her, it felt like something had been taken, something she could not name but could feel. And that feeling began to grow heavier with each passing day.
Adaeze, unaware of the storm building within Amara, continued to act with humility. She worked hard, she showed respect, she avoided anything that might cause conflict. Sometimes, she even went out of her way to help Amara. One afternoon, while preparing food together, Adaeze smiled gently. "Let me help you with that," she offered. Amara paused for a moment, then nodded. "All right," she said calmly. But as Adaeze walked beside her, Amara's thoughts moved in a different direction. Why is she trying so hard? What does she want? What Adaeze saw as kindness, Amara began to see as something else. Something suspicious, something calculated. And slowly, her mind began to twist simple actions into reasons for deeper resentment. The voice within. That night, Amara lay awake long after everyone else had fallen asleep. The house was quiet, but her mind was not. Thoughts moved endlessly, repeating themselves, growing stronger. You are here first. This is your home. She has taken your place. She turned from one side to the other, trying to escape the noise in her head. But it only grew louder, until one thought rose above all the others. She must not be comfortable here. At first, the idea shocked her. She sat up slowly, her heart beating faster. But instead of pushing the thought away, she held on to it. And the more she thought about it, the more it began to feel like a solution. Seeking the wrong path. A few days later, under the excuse of visiting the market, Amara left the house earlier than usual. A kindness that was misunderstood. Adaeze, unaware of the storm building within Amara. Her destination was not the market. She walked past the busy streets, past the familiar paths, and into a quieter part of the village, an area where people rarely went unless they had a reason they did not speak about openly. There, in a small, isolated hut, lived a man known for dealing with matters people could not handle themselves. Amara stopped in front of the hut. For a moment, she hesitated. Her heart beat loudly in her chest. This was not a path she had ever imagined taking. But then she remembered the feeling, the anger, the jealousy, the constant unrest in her heart. Slowly, she stepped inside. A warning ignored. The man inside looked up as she entered. His eyes were calm but sharp. "What brings you here?" he asked. Amara swallowed hard. Then she spoke. "I need help." The man studied her for a moment. "Help with what?" he asked. She hesitated. Then quietly she said, "There is someone in my home, and I want her gone." The room grew still. The man leaned back slightly. "Be careful what you ask for," he said. "Some actions cannot be undone." But Amara's mind was already made up. "I understand," she replied. The man looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. They returned home. When Amara left the hut, she carried nothing visible in her hands. But something had changed. The decision she had made now felt real, solid, and irreversible. As she walked back toward the village, her face was calm, her steps steady. To anyone who saw her, she looked like a woman returning from a normal day. But inside her, something had shifted completely. The line between right and wrong had been crossed. A mask of peace. When she returned home, Adaeze greeted her with her usual warmth. "You're back," she said with a smile. Amara nodded. Yes. That evening, she behaved differently. Even more gentle, even more helpful. She spoke kindly. She laughed softly. To Adaeze, it felt like the last traces of tension had finally disappeared. For the first time since entering the house, she felt at peace. But peace built on deception does not last. The calm before the storm. As night fell, the compound settled into silence once again. Each person rested, unaware of what was slowly unfolding. Adaeze slept peacefully, believing she was finally safe. Obina slept without worry, thinking his home had found balance. And Amara lay quietly, staring into the darkness. Her face showed no emotion, but her heart had already taken a path that would soon reveal its consequences. When shadows began to show, the days that followed passed with an unusual calm. In the compound, everything appeared normal. The routines remained the same, the chores were completed, and conversations flowed as they always had. But beneath that calm surface, something had begun to shift. Quietly, gradually, almost unnoticed. A subtle change. It started with small signs. Adaeze felt unusually tired one morning. At first, she ignored it, thinking it was simply the result of a long day's work. She continued with her chores, moving slowly, but determined not to complain. But as the days went by, the feeling did not go away. Instead, it grew. Her strength began to fade. Simple tasks became difficult. Even standing for long periods made her feel weak. Amara noticed. Of course she did. She noticed every detail. But instead of concern, there was something else in her eyes. A quiet observation. A waiting. Concern in the household. Obinna was the first to speak about it. One evening, as they sat together, he looked at Adaeze carefully. "You don't look well," he said. Adaeze forced a small smile. "I'm fine," she replied, "just tired." But Obinna was not convinced. "This is more than tiredness," he said. "You've been like this for days." Amara remained silent, listening, watching, waiting. The condition worsened. Days turned into weeks. Adaeze's condition worsened. She became weaker, her movements slower. There were moments when she could not even complete her usual tasks. The once lively presence she brought into the home had faded into something fragile. Neighbors began to notice. Whispers spread quietly. "Something is not right," they said. Obinna grew more worried with each passing day. "This cannot continue," he said firmly. "We are going to the hospital." A journey for help. The next morning, Adaeze was taken for proper care. The journey felt long and uncertain. For Adaeze, everything seemed distant. Her body felt heavy, her mind clouded, but somewhere deep inside, she held on to hope. Back in the compound, the absence of Adaeze created a strange silence. And in that silence, Amara sat quietly, alone, with her thoughts. The weight of actions. At first, she felt a sense of relief. The tension she had carried for so long seemed to ease. The house felt calmer, quieter. But as the days passed, something unexpected began to happen. The quiet did not bring peace. Instead, it brought reflection. Moments where her mind returned to what she had done. Moments where the warning she had been given echoed again. Some actions cannot be undone. She pushed the thought away each time it came, but it always returned. Signs of recovery. After some time, news came. Adaeze was improving. The treatment was working. Her strength was slowly returning. When Obinna brought the news home, relief filled his voice. "She's getting better," he said. Amara nodded. But inside, something shifted. This was not what she had expected, not what she had planned. For the first time, uncertainty entered her heart. A mind that begins to question. As Adaeze continued to recover, Amara found herself thinking more deeply about everything, about her actions, about her reasons, about the path she had chosen. The anger that once felt so strong now seemed distant. And in its place came something else, something heavier, something harder to ignore. Guilt. The return. When Adaeze finally returned home, she was not the same. She was quieter, more careful, more observant. The house welcomed her back, but something had changed, not just in her body, but in her mind. She moved slowly through the compound, taking in everything with new awareness. Every look, every word, every silence. A growing awareness. Adaeze began to reflect on the past weeks. The sudden change in her condition, the timing, the moments leading up to it.
She remembered Amara's unusual kindness, the sudden closeness, the change in behavior. And though no one had said anything, a quiet understanding began to form in her heart. Not based on proof, but on feeling, on instinct, on a deep sense that something was not right. A house that no longer feels safe. As night fell on her first day back, Adaize lay awake. Her body was still weak, but her mind was clear. For the first time since arriving in the house, she felt something she had not felt before. Not discomfort, not tension, but danger. A quiet, unspoken danger. And in that moment, she realized something important. Sometimes, survival is not about staying. Sometimes, the choice to leave. The night stretched long and heavy. Adaize lay awake, staring into the darkness, her thoughts refusing to rest. The quiet of the compound no longer brought comfort. It carried a strange tension that pressed against her chest. Everything around her felt familiar, yet nothing felt safe. She turned slightly, listening to the faint sounds of the night. The distant chirping of insects, the soft rustle of leaves outside. But beneath those sounds was something deeper, a warning she could not ignore. A heart that understands. By morning, Adaize had made a decision, not out of fear alone, but out of understanding. There are moments in life when the heart sees what the eyes cannot fully explain. Moments when silence speaks louder than words. And in those moments, the wisest choice is not to wait for proof, but to act for survival. Adaize rose quietly and went about her morning as usual. She greeted Amara. She spoke to Obina. She carried out her chores slowly, carefully. Nothing in her behavior revealed the decision she had already made. A different kind of strength. Amara watched her, as always. But this time, something felt different. Adaize was calm, too calm. Not the fragile weakness she had expected after her return, not the quiet uncertainty she once carried. There was something else, something steady, something strong. And though Amara could not name it, it made her uneasy. A silent preparation. Throughout the day, Adaize moved with quiet purpose. She gathered her few belongings, nothing much, just the things that truly belonged to her. A wrapper, a small bag, a few personal items. She did not rush. She did not draw attention. She simply prepared. Each movement careful, each step intentional. The moment before dawn. Before the sun rose the next morning, the compound was still. The air was cool, the sky dark but beginning to soften at the edges. Adaize stood at the doorway of the house. Her small bag rested in her hand. She looked around one last time, at the walls, the yard. The place she had entered with hope. The place she had tried to call home. For a brief moment, her eyes filled with emotion. Not regret, but acceptance. Walking away. Without making a sound, she stepped outside. Her feet moved gently across the ground as she made her way toward the path leading out of the compound. Each step felt heavy, but also necessary. She did not look back again, because sometimes looking back makes it harder to move forward. And she knew, if she stayed, she might not get another chance to leave. The morning discovery. When morning came, the house slowly came to life. Obina woke up and noticed something unusual. Adaize, he called. There was no response. He checked the rooms, the yard, but she was nowhere to be found. Confusion filled his face. "Amara, have you seen her?" he asked. Amara paused for a moment, then shook her head. "No," she replied calmly, but inside her, something shifted. A truth that cannot stay hidden. As the hours passed, it became clear that Adaze had left. Not for a short walk, not for an errand, but completely. Neighbors began to ask questions. Whispers returned to the village. Why would she leave so suddenly? What happened in that house? Obina grew restless. This was not something he could ignore. He began to think deeply, to remember, to connect the moment he had overlooked. Her illness, her silence, her change. And slowly, a troubling thought began to form in his mind. The weight of actions returned. For Amara, the house no longer felt the same. The quiet she once wanted had returned, but it did not bring peace. It brought emptiness, a silence that felt heavier than before. The absence of Adaze filled every corner of the compound, and in that silence, her thoughts grew louder. The warning she had once ignored returned clearly. Some actions cannot be undone. A man began to question. That evening, Obina sat outside, deep in thought. Something was not right. He could feel it. And for the first time, he began to question everything. Not just Adaze's departure, but the condition of his home, the decisions he had made, the balance he thought he had created. A path that cannot be reversed. As the sun set, the compound stood still. 3 lives had changed. One had walked away to protect herself. One was left searching for answers. And one remained, facing the quiet consequences of her own actions. Because sometimes, the damage caused by jealousy is not loud. It does not shout. It does not announce itself. It simply changes everything and leaves people to live with what remains. What remains after the storm? The compound was no longer the same. Though the walls still stood and the routines continued, something important had been lost. Something that could not be easily replaced. Adiaze was gone. And with her departure came a silence that felt heavier than any argument ever could. A man searching for answers. In the days that followed, Obina could not find rest. He moved through the compound with a troubled mind, replaying events over and over again. Adiaze's sudden illness, her quietness, her careful behavior after returning, and finally, her disappearance. It did not make sense. Or rather, it did not make sense until he allowed himself to consider what he had been avoiding. That something had been wrong all along. Questions without comfort. One evening, he sat with Amara. The air between them felt different, tense, uncertain. He asked, "Do you know why she left?" Amara looked away briefly. "I don't know," she replied, but her voice lacked its usual strength. Obina studied her carefully. For years, he had known this woman. He understood her expressions, her silence, her tone. And now, something did not feel right. The truth reveals itself slowly. In the village, whispers had begun to grow stronger. Not loud enough to accuse, but enough to suggest. People had noticed the changes. They had seen the tension. They had observed more than they had said. And slowly, those quiet observations began to reach Obina. Piece by piece, the truth began to take shape. Not through a single moment,
but through many small realizations coming together. A heart confronted. For Amara, the weight had become too much to carry. The silence she once desired now felt unbearable. Every corner of the compound reminded her of what had happened. The quiet moment gave her space to think, and in that thinking, there was no escape. The anger that once filled her heart had disappeared, but what remained was heavier: regret, facing the consequence. One night, unable to hold it in any longer, Amara sat alone outside, the same place where her jealousy had once grown quietly. But now her thoughts were different. She remembered everything: the moment she allowed anger to take control, the warnings she had ignored, the path she had chosen, and the result of it all. She lowered her head, her voice barely above a whisper. I only wanted peace. But now she understood. The path she took had destroyed the very peace she desired. A home without balance. Obinatu had come to a realization, not just about what had happened, but about his own role in it. He had made a decision without care, without understanding the hearts involved, without preparing his home for what it would become. And now he was left with the results: a divided household, a missing wife, and a truth that came too late. The life Adaeze chose. Far from the village, Adaeze had begun a new life. It was not easy. She had left without much, without certainty, without a clear path ahead. But she had something more important: her life, her peace, and her freedom. She walked quietly, rebuilding herself step by step, stronger, wiser, more aware. She carried the memory of what had happened, not as a burden, but as a lesson. The lesson of the story. Back in the village, time continued to move, but the story of that household remained in the minds of those who heard it. A reminder, a warning, a truth that could not be ignored. Because jealousy, when left unchecked, does not solve problems. It creates new ones. It breaks trust. It destroys homes. And in the end, it leaves behind emptiness. Final moral. A heart filled with jealousy cannot build peace. True strength is not found in harming others, but in controlling your emotions, choosing wisdom, and protecting what truly matters. And sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is walk away from a place that no longer holds safety or love.